Hi, Patrick. I decided to do something here. I'm going to tell you a story about your dad. It's very true. It happened several years ago, and it says a lot about the kind of guy he was. You know, there was four of us in the beginning. It was Dick Dirks and Gene Fix and your dad and me that used to go on every other year or so up into Canada fishing walleyes. We went up to places like Manaki and Lactamalox, I think it was, and Viking Island. And we were catching all the 1 and 2 pound walleyes anybody could ever hope for. But all four of us kind of grew a little weary of just catching small fish like that. And so we started thinking about where can we go to catch bigger fish? So your dad, I think, had the right idea. He remembered the St. Paul Pioneer Press, which is one of the two major newspapers in the Twin Cities. Every Sunday, they would publish in their sports section the three largest walleyes, northern pike, and smallmouth bass that were caught in the state that week. And invariably, it seemed like at least two of the three biggest walleyes phoned in or sent in came from the same lake in Minnesota, Saginaw. None of us had ever even heard of it, knew where it was or anything. But we pursued and looked into it and found out where it was up on the Canadian border in the Arrowhead region. And here's where it gets interesting. Your dad decided on his own just to drive up there. He booked himself a room at a lodge on Gunflint Lake. It was called Borderland Lodge, run by Jim and Nancy Thompson and their son Eric. Okay, so Chuck goes up there and he asks about a guide for taking him out on Lake Saginaw. And the couple there said, well, their son Eric guides on that lake. Now, not to be too indelicate about it, but Eric was not exactly a man full of ambition and drive. I said often that good thing breathing was involuntary. He would have passed on a long time ago. But it also turns out that Eric's wife was pregnant at the time. And the night before he was supposed to take your dad out fishing, she went into labor. So the couple, his parents, had to break the news to your dad that he didn't have a guide for the day. And your dad asked, well, is there somebody else in the area that I could perhaps hook up with? And they said, well, we know a young guy. He's just starting out up at the end, toward the end of the trail at Seagull Creek. His name's Mike Berg. You might want to go talk with him. So your dad did. He drove up there the next morning, and as it turned out, fortuitously, Mike was not booked that day and was at home. So your dad goes up, knocks on the door, and Mike answers, and your dad says, look, I'm here representing myself, but I'm also representing three other fishing buddies of mine, and we're looking for something a little bit bigger than, 1 or 2 pound walleye. Mike says, well, follow me. So he leads your dad out into the garage, and he opens up a chest cooler out there, freezer, and he says, is that what you're looking for? And it was a 34-inch walleye. And I'm going to do my best to imitate your dad at this point. He said, that's exactly what we're looking for. And so, pretty much the rest is history when you think about how lucky we were that Eric's wife went into labor, number one. But look at all of the tentacles that came out of that. I mean, there was the four of us originally, but then Claude DeSanto was a part of it, and Don Redmond was a part of it. Your Uncle Harry came up there 2 or 3 times. My three sons-in-law and my son have all been up there. Three of my buddies from Mankato and I go up there. They are bringing some of their friends up there now. This thing has really lived on because of the efforts of your dad and the persistence and the vision he had for what he really wanted us to do. And yeah, it was much more than fishing. Oh my gosh. We were, at one time we all either worked for each other or the other way around, and it never made a nickel's worth of difference to us when we were up there. Everybody was just a fishing buddy. There was music with your dad on the harmonica and me on the guitar at nights. That was always a good time. Laughed our silly heads off. Maybe drank a little bit too much sometimes, a little, okay? But I just remember with such fondness those times, and it was all due to your dad. I loved your dad.